Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's Focused Friday event. In honor of homecoming, we're super grateful to have 4 former Aggie athletes here talking to us today. My name's Hadley Lords. I'm the president of the Athletic Administration Club here on campus. We're a club for people who want to work in sports business. If you're interested, you can talk to me afterwards. But I'd like to start today off by introducing our moderator for today's discussion, a Huntsman faculty member and Aggie alum, Cassidy Creech.
Yeah, hold for applause. There we go.
And then I'm going to introduce today's panelists. We have former soccer player Olivia Burnett, basketball player Brady Jardine, basketball player Jaycee Carroll, and football player Chandler Dolphin. Okay, I'm going to turn the time over to Cassidy, and he will have our panelists introduce themselves a little bit more.
Fantastic. All right, so we can just pass these microphones back and forth. There we go. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, let's start off by just introducing, share just a little bit about, I guess, how you went from being a student athlete to where you are right now. What's been your path for the past few years?
Yeah.
Just so we have some context on each of you.
Perfect. Yeah, so I just graduated in 2020, so about 4 years ago now, which is crazy. But right after college, I was at Adobe, which is a huge shout out to Professor Bone back there helping me land that. So I did corporate sales at Adobe and then started my MBA, my master's at the University of Utah. So I did that for a couple years. I graduated with my master's last year, and then I made a pivot into like nonprofit and social innovation work. So I'm currently a senior brand manager and communications officer with the philanthropy department at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it has been such a fulfilling, wonderful job. I've been there for just over a year. So that's me.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So I'm Brady. I graduated in 2012. I got degrees from the Huntsman School in Finance and Economics. Got done with school. I wanted to be an eye surgeon, decided that finance was a better fit for me, so dropped the pre-med stuff, went the finance side. I started with a localized firm. I wanted to be in asset management and wealth management. Started with a local firm. Wasn't quite what I was looking for. Spent a couple years there. Ended up going to University of Texas and getting a financial planning degree as well. And ended up merging. I got in the business because I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and my mission president was a big asset manager in Salt Lake. And when I got in the business, he wasn't willing to hire me. He said, I'm not going to hire someone that doesn't know what they're doing. And so I spent a couple years with this other firm and decided that it wasn't the right fit. And I called him and I said, I'm either going to work with you or I'm leaving the business. And so at that point, he hired me, which was awesome. And so I've been with my current firm, EP Wealth Advisors, since 2013. It's been pretty fun. We've gone from about a $1.5 billion firm to we currently are about a $30 billion firm, and we're just ranked the 11th best firm in the country. And so it's been pretty fun to see that growth. Berkshire Hathaway is now a minority shareholder of our firm because of what we're doing. So it's been fun. It's been a great process. It's been really cool to see the growth of my practice, my business, and also the Huntsman School. A lot of things have changed in the last 12 to 15 years, so time's gone fast.
Thanks, Brady. Yep. So I'm Jaycee Carroll. Honestly, from the time I was 12 years old, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. That's what I wanted to be. So I came to Utah State on a basketball scholarship. And, things that I love about Utah State and that kind of got me going were, I never spoken so poorly in my life. I can't get my thoughts together. But while I was at Utah State, I became the school's all-time leading scorer. They just retired my jersey. Those opportunities led me into a professional basketball career. I spent 13 years playing professional basketball. I played throughout Europe. 10 of the years were in Madrid, playing for Real Madrid. 2 of them were in the Canary Islands, and 1 was in Italy. So I was able to go see the world, have a really diverse experience. All my kids were born in Europe. I have 4 kids. My wife went with me, and it was just a really, really cool experience. Now, from the very first day I signed my professional basketball contract, I continually thought, what happens if this is my last day? What happens if this is my last year? What comes next? So I spent the 13 years kind of preparing myself through different investments, building different businesses, and a lot of, honestly, going down a lot of ideas of businesses that I get to the end of the path and say, this isn't going to work. Through those exercises, I've been able to find a couple things that have worked and have stuck. I do own a beef company that's growing pretty good at a good rate right now. We've had some good big things happen the last little while that in January we'll start to make some announcements. My wife and I jumped into a med spa recently, and that we did a nice merger acquisition about a month ago with that. But my day-to-day is wealth management. I don't have 13 years of experience or more, but I've been doing it for about 2 years now. I'm very excited about the firm that I'm with. We call it 3 Seasons Wealth, and we work with anything that's a dollar sign. And I've been able to see the positive impact that we can have on people's lives. So that's a little bit about me.
My name is Chandler Dolphin. I graduated from Utah State University in 2022 with an MBA, my master's in business administration, graduated with a bachelor's in marketing, walked onto the football team here in summer of 2017. Was fortunate enough to be put on scholarship and be a part of those fun runs in 2021, a team that won the Mountain West Championship and the LA Bowl. Gave the NFL a shot for a little while, and when that all came to a finish was job searching, and ended up at a place that's actually heavily involved with Utah State University. It's called Consolidated Electrical Distributors, and so now I do outside sales for them. And so I work with a wide variety of contractors that wire homes and schools and universities. And so my job as an outside salesman is to make sure they're taken care of and we get them the material they need to wire such places. I love Utah State. It's an honor to be an alumni of Utah State, and happy to be here.
I love it. Thank you. So let's leave it down there with Chandler, and we'll bring it back this way. What about your experience as a student athlete do you feel helped prepare you in particular for what you're doing right now?
It's a great question. I think for me, so like I said, it's my responsibility working with contractors and working with a wide range of customers. And so for me, it's important that I'm very organized and on top of my communication. So I don't let anything slip through the cracks. And that's what's great about being a student athlete is you learn how to do that. There's so many different things that you have to balance as being a member of the team and being on top of your schoolwork and in your relationships outside of sports. And so you get really good at time managing and you're making sure that you're on top of your schedule. And so that skill that was built during football and retirement at Utah State is definitely carried over into the professional world for sure.
I love it.
Yeah, for me, some of the things that really helped me out after athletics was discipline, patience, and sacrifice. I lived a very disciplined life as an athlete. I knew what time I was going to wake up. I knew what time I was going to go to the gym. I knew how many shots I was going to shoot. I knew how much time it was going to take me to do those shots. I knew how many I was going to shoot in a month, in a week, in a year to prepare myself. And I was able to just take all those micro goals that I constantly had to achieve a big goal, and I just put it in a different form of life, a different lifestyle. Hey, where do I want to get within a year? What are the micro goals I need to do daily, weekly, and monthly to be able to achieve those goals? So I was able to put those processes in. And then the other big thing for me was the ability to work with other people. As an athlete, you have every single day, you have conflict, you have highs, you have lows, you have success, you have failure. And athletics gave me a chance to go through all that with people, and everyone handles it differently. And I had to learn how to organize and work within all those different personalities. And as I left athletics and got into the business world, all those skills just kind of translated over. Sometimes I get to sit in the back and I just listen and I learn and I'm a follower. Sometimes I take the lead on things. But having the ability to go between those roles has been one of the greatest things I've been able to do with my post-athletic career.
Yeah, I think Chandler and Jaycee hit it pretty well. I mean, the more I think about my life and my career, it's no different than sports. I think life is a game. It's a competition. It's just taking those, has been stated, the competitiveness, the willing to self-motivate and self-start. I think for me, one of the biggest things was just learning how to self-start and self-motivate myself. As an athlete, you have to be certain places at certain times. You've got to be at the gym, you got to be in the weight room, you have to be at class, you have to be at study hall, you have to be there. But we all know that the athletes that just do what they have to do aren't the successful ones. It's those who are willing to put in the extra time and the extra effort. And it's interesting, when you graduate, there's this huge void of you no longer have to really be anywhere. And so you have the choice. Am I going to get myself up in the morning? Am I still going to go to the gym? Am I still going to be competitive? Am I still going to push myself? And, Utah State, playing for Stu was very old school as far as coaching went. He was, very hard-nosed and very disciplined. And it's been a blessing in my life because I wake up every day and I still feel like I'm going to practice. I still feel like I have a game. I don't get to play Nevada or get to play in March Madness anymore, but now I get to go and try and close a client that might have $100 million. And to me, it's the same feeling, walking into that meeting of, okay, I've done the prep, I've done all the things I needed to do pre this meeting to give myself the best chance to close or win this client, has been a big thing for me. And frankly, it feels the exact same as it did prepping for that big game. It's all the same in my mind.
Yeah, I feel like I echo everything that they said. I feel like they explained it really well. I think whether you've played sports in college or you played them in Little League or in high school, whatever it may be, right? You develop certain characteristics and your brain thinks a certain way. And I really agree with you in what you said, where I feel like when I'm dealing with hard things, my brain will revert back to a hard soccer game or different things that you would experience. And so for me, I think the biggest lesson I've taken away from being a student athlete here at Utah State is tenacity and being relentless. Because I think the job world, it's not, the first job you walk into isn't always going to be the one you stay at for the rest of your life. So it's having that ability to pivot, to recognize, okay, this is hard, and it's not even career, right, but just life. It's challenging, and you go through challenges, so it's when you're faced with those moments, are you gonna get up and fight and win the game, or find a different job, or be able to have the depth within your character and skill set to be able to pivot when you need to.
I like this word, pivot. There's a big change coming to the end of your playing days, right? When I'm not doing this anymore, I have a new adventure. And that change from the super stretcher, as Jaycee was mentioning, you know everything you're doing every single day. And the life of a student athlete or a professional athlete is very much, it's very rigid and very predictable. You know what's going on. The same thing is true for everybody else. All us mere mortals, we also, as students, we've gone through that experience of everything is really, really structured. I know for the next 4 years what I'm going to be doing. I need to be here, I'm in class. But then you get out there to the world, and students have the same challenge of figuring out, how do I pivot effectively? How do I move on to the next chapter? So for you, what do you feel like has been the key to being able to shift from this one chapter to the next, being able to turn the page from this super structured environment to now you got to figure it out for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would love to be able to say oh, soccer ended and I just magically transitioned to this next phase, and I didn't. No, I had a crisis when soccer ended, and I was thinking about playing pro as well, and I tore my ACL for the third time, and I realized I can't keep doing this. And so I think it's important to note that it's not always this it's not easy, right? Whatever you're changing from, maybe a different career or a different major, whatever it may be, it's not always this seamless, easy thing. But the key for me was realizing that I had honed and developed these skills every single day that had led me to achieving my dream of playing D1 soccer on a scholarship. It was then switching my mindset to, how cool is it now that I get to develop and hone this side of myself that I maybe haven't had experienced as much depth in. And it's been really fun, to try other hobbies. I've recently picked up marathon running, which is not that fun, and I honestly wouldn't encourage it. But other hobbies, like doing that or honing different skills, or even in a career, right? Just being able to have that same mindset. When I walked on a soccer field when I was 5, I wasn't at the level to play college soccer. soccer, obviously. So even though I might not be exactly where I want to be in my career or other things like that, it's been fun to see it grow and just having that same mindset of like, this is exciting to kind of develop a new side of myself.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, and that's spot on. I don't know what to even add to that either. But I think that what's important is, again, it takes the same things to be successful in life as it does in sports. And there's no Division I athlete that had anything handed to them. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into it. And I think that one of the challenges that we have right now with, I'd say, our generation, we're on the older end of it maybe, but there's this mentality of like, somebody's going to give me something for nothing, and it's getting really dangerous. I think that some of the younger generations, including ourselves, it's easy to say, well, someone's going to take care of me, or I see that so-and-so, my parents or my friends or my friends' parents have this boat, or they have a nice house, or they have all these things, and I'm just going to get that without understanding what it takes to actually get there to have that. And so there's this mentality of like, well, maybe someone will do it for me, or maybe I don't have to work that hard. But I think it opens up a huge opportunity, because that is becoming fairly prevalent in today's world. And for those who have the work ethic and have that mentality already to step in, like I'm embarrassingly competitive. I'll share, like, this is not my most proud moment. I quit playing basketball because I either swear too much and look like an idiot, or I get in a fight. And Gary Wilkinson called me like 3 years ago to come play in the City League Championship basketball game, and he's like, just come have fun. I said, Gary, I don't know how to play and have fun. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. Like, you play to win. Well, in the second half, I got ejected from the basketball game, and I walked over to Gary and I patted him on the chest and said, don't ever call me again. And I have not touched a basketball since. And so, like, it's like, athletes are competitive, and competitiveness is good. And I think competitiveness should push you. You graduate, and I hate to say this, but everyone graduating from the Huntsman school has the same degree, right? Even with a master's. Okay, I've got a master's, or I have an undergrad. Everyone's graduating. What makes you different? Why are you going to be the person that someone's going to look at your resume, or someone's going to talk to you face to face and say, hey, this guy or gal, they have it? And I think that transitioning from sports to the career, I think that's a fairly easy transition. It's hard. You lose your identity a little bit. But if you just take the same attributes and you continue to work in the same way, it gives you a huge jump start, because everyone you're competing against does not have the same background. And so it makes it easy to get ahead. I set a goal, if I can manage X number of dollars in a certain number of time, I've made it. And that was my push. That was what I wanted to do. And I got to that number of, hey, if I can get to here, if I can get to here. And so you just keep pushing yourself. And I think it makes the transition easier. Those who quit sports and sit like a lost puppy have real problems. But those who sports end, my sports career ended the way I didn't want it to. I had a Liz Frank fracture my third game of my senior year. I was told I'd never play again. They fused my foot. That was end. And so I didn't get a chance to even go play. Not that I was good enough potentially, but that was a goal. So you just have to use the same things you've learned. You have to pivot. You have to work hard. You're happier when you're working hard anyways. And so you just have to stay after it.
Yeah, echo a lot of the same things that they've said. I do enjoy so much the lessons the basketball and the sports can teach young kids in a very controlled setting where the consequences in reality are very low. I coach a high school girls basketball team. I'm going into year 2. Okay? I got in there year 1 and had to break down so many bad habits and so many bad misconceptions of what it meant to be on the team. And just because I'm a senior doesn't mean that you're better than the underclassmen. And it was a struggle to get kids to understand that you have to be able to play a role within this team. Sometimes that role is you don't play. Sometimes the role is you play a minute. Sometimes you play 30 minutes. And you have to find joy within that role. I get asked sometimes what it takes to make a good team. And I've thought about it for a while, and it takes individual players fulfilling their individual roles at exceptional level. Brennan Ray is one of my favorite guys. He played at Utah State before I did. Never even played with him. He knew his role. He'd come in, he'd beat up people, he'd rebound, he'd go sit down. He'd come in for another minute, he'd beat up people, he'd rebound, he'd go sit down. And he did it at an exceptional level, and he was so valued for that. I like the way Brady talks, because there's never really any gray with Brady. Everything's the greatest or it's the worst. If you
win or you lose.
You win or you lose.
I don't get a sport that there's draws. I can't play a sport with ties.
Okay, so I really like that about Brady, and I've known Brady for a long time, and to watch him, what he's been able to accomplish has been unbelievable. We never played together. He came on a recruiting trip. I hosted him. That was it. But we stayed in touch through that whole time. And I've had phone calls with him when I was in Spain. He's like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna. I want this someday. I want this someday." I was like, "Brady, you're gonna get that someday. Like you're gonna do it." There's no doubt in my mind that he's gonna have the success that he's had. And those are just things that I try and take time with these young kids and teach them. I do have a former athlete. He played professionally for 10 years. I called him yesterday. He's like, "Hey man, how are things?" And he goes, "I finally found a job." He's been retired for 5 years. And I had him up here a few months ago golfing. I was like, "Look, man, don't forget who you are and what you've done. You did something exceptional for 10 years. You have something to offer." He was so down on himself, so lost. And I really didn't understand it because there is so many lessons that he learned as an athlete that he could start to apply. And I think he's finally on that path, but it took him a while. So it's not always easy.
I really love what Olivia said about just the eagerness of developing yourself professionally, right? You spend the entire duration of your college career developing yourself athletically, and then it comes time that you're going to start applying the skills that you've learned in your education, and then applying the skills that you've learned as an athlete to then put you up in set you up in a situation to have success in your career. I think the tough thing, and this is Jaycee was saying this, it makes me think of this. I think a lot of athletes, they root their identity in that they are an athlete, and that they're a soccer player, a basketball player, or a football player. And so when that period of their life moves on, I think some athletes have a hard time pivoting because of that. And so I think just the most important thing is, I guess, for athletes that are transitioning, I guess what helped me transition is, it's like I have all these amazing skills, and it doesn't need to be in an athletic setting that I can apply it. It can be in a professional setting, and that's where it's best going to benefit me. And so, I think it just rooting your identity in deeper than who you are as an athlete, and while simultaneously using the skills that you developed as an athlete to benefit you professionally.
So this is fantastic. You are all brilliant. You've definitely earned the success you've had. But one of the things that's so remarkable about what you've been able to do is that so much of what you're doing right now started while you were still here as a student athlete. You were making connections, you were involved in clubs, you were competing in a different way. And Jaycee, I love how you mentioned your friend, and this does happen, right? That somebody will, as they're transitioning out of their time as an athlete, they don't really have somewhere to pivot to, because they didn't have their eyes open enough to be able to know where else I can go with the ball, And so, with that in mind, how do you prepare for a pivot? How do you prepare yourself to do something different while still being all in where you're at? It's a big challenge, because I'll have students that will have a struggle networking or taking on that part-time job or that internship or taking on these new opportunities because they feel like they're tapped out. You've all felt tapped out. The life of a student athlete is completely booked. You don't get to have free time. And yet you were able to kind of sow some seeds and get the pieces in place so you could be successful next. So how do you put yourself in a position to be able to take on more and do just a little bit more?
I think for me, it was utilizing the resources that we had available. And so that's one thing that I greatly appreciate about the Huntsman School of Business, is that there's a lot of effort on behalf of professors and the staff to line up student athletes with opportunities post-graduation and post-finishing sports. So I think for me, it's utilizing your resources, utilizing what opportunities are available. And if you look for them, I think all the athletes and just students here at the Huntsman School of Business have great access to all those things.
Yeah, I think for me, this might sound weird, but I never saw anything as a failure. I always felt like even when something came to the end of the road, that I learned something from it, and I didn't fail in it. I just learned I had to find a new path. I had to go to plan B, C, or D. And, resources you had available. And I've always been very curious, naturally curious, and I want to have answers. When I get interested in something, I become very, very obsessive with it. It was basketball for a long time. But while I was playing basketball, I went out to dinner one night with my team and I had unbelievable steak. I was like, what is this steak? And it was Wagyu beef. I was like, I want to do this at my house. I want to raise this. I want to feed it to my family. This is what I want to eat. And so I became obsessively curious with that. I read every article I could. I read every study. I read every book on it. I made phone calls to the best people in the world to find out what the genetics are, where I can get the genetics, how much the genetics cost, and how I feed them. What is the feed program? What is phase 1? What is phase 2? What is phase 3? How long do we feed them? And I became so obsessed with this that I figured it out. This started 6 years ago. I figured out how to raise this beef. And but I wasn't, for me, the only thing was I wasn't afraid to ask questions, dumb questions. I have cameras at my house. I remember one day I was sitting in Spain, and I could hear people talking on it. And I had some people sitting in my driveway at my house, and there are people I had asked questions about cattle, and they weren't talking very nicely about me. They're like, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't got a clue of what he's doing. And I overheard it, and these guys were like, I'm paying them to be at my house to do stuff, and they're talking bad about me. But in the back of my mind, I was like, all right, I'll show you. And because I wasn't afraid to ask dumb questions, no matter what people said. Now those questions don't seem so dumb because I have the answers to them, and I have a path forward. So that's kind of progressed to we got the Wagyu. Now we've imported a Spanish breed that we'll have the biggest herd in the world of this Spanish breed that we're bringing in. And it's so interesting to me, and it's so much fun to pivot and try and understand and figure out. I love the figuring out process. And it's not always the first idea. It's sometimes the second, third, or fourth idea. So just keep plugging away.
As far as preparing to transition, my dad was like me. It's either right or it's wrong. You win or you lose. Jaycee's the positive one. I'm not so much that way. I wish I was. But my dad always said, he said, Brady, at some point sports are going to let you down. And I wasn't exactly sure what he meant by that. He said, Brady, you're not going to make enough money playing sports to do what you want to do. He was very frank with me. And so coming through Utah State, I wasn't the guy that maybe thought, okay, this is my professional career. I saw sports because of the way my parents had taught me and because of my skill set of this is a way to pay for college, to have your education paid for, and you better figure out a way to be successful if you want to do some of these big dreams that you have, in your mind. And so for me, I was fortunate just by the way my parents had taught me as I was coming through school. I was always looking and trying to figure out what my next step was and how I was going to be successful with the next step, because I knew my career was going to end. I thought I'd make it a few years in Europe or something like that, but I wasn't going to sign a Jordan Love contract for $230 million and be done. How awesome for him, right? But, for me, and one thing that I think that's important for athletes, you guys operate now in a very different world. NIL did not exist when we played. Maybe starting, but Jaycee and I, NIL was not a thing. So when a parent called and asked us, would you come to my kid's birthday party? It wasn't like, okay, I'll come to the birthday party, but it's going to cost you $500. That wasn't a conversation. What the conversation was, Stu would walk into the gym and say, hey, you're going to be here, and you're going to be here, and you're going to be here for the next 3 hours this evening, supporting the elementary school, supporting the sports academy, supporting this. And what that did for us, unbeknownst to some of the guys on the team, it put us in the general populace's eyes, and it gave them a high regard for us. As an athlete, you're on a pedestal. Those little kids look at you and you're God to them, like you're their superheroes. And what people don't realize is you have a small window of opportunity that if you do it right, a parent calls you and says, hey, would you come to my kid's birthday party? And you can get paid for it now. But instead of doing that, you show up at the birthday party, you have a great time with those kids, you spend 30 or 45 minutes, you make their day, the mom and dad go to hand you $300, turn it away and say, no problem, happy to be here. The second you do that, you now have a family in this valley that will go to war for you. And oh, by the way, if that family happens to own a business or happens to know someone that owns a business or is involved in the career that you might like, now all of a sudden you have a window of opportunity. The second you accept the money of the $300 and you walk away, their responsibility to you or their commitment to you is done. And it's different. It's hard to walk in as a poor college student and say, hey, here's $100 or $500 or $1,000. We had a former basketball player here that was calling people and say, hey, I'll go play golf with you for $500 a round. And that blew my mind, because that just doesn't make any sense to me. I was begging people to go play golf with me, and I had no money, but I was still paying for their golf because I wanted to build relationships. And as an athlete, you have a small period where people care about who you are. Like, you're different. When we were there, my wife played volleyball, I played basketball at the same time, and so we had an opportunity. We got asked a lot to do firesides for our church, and over a 4-year period, we did roughly 100 firesides. Well, that was 3 or 4 Sundays a month, sometimes 2 or 3 times a Sunday. So we were putting all this time into it, and we saw it as an investment. Look, we get nothing back out of this right now, but what we're doing is we're building a foundation of people who will give us a chance. And when I started my business, because of that mentality, and because of kind of that forward planning, I would call people and say, hey, I'm Brady Jardine. I just graduated 3 weeks ago. I know nothing about finance other than my degrees. Can I meet with you and talk to you about your money? Any right person in their mind should say no, because you don't know what you're talking about yet. But they'd say, now, is this the Brady Jardine that played basketball at Utah State? Yeah, that's me. Okay, we'd love to meet. And so sports gave me an opportunity to transition into a career that I said if I could ever manage $100 million, if I could ever oversee $100 million for clients, I've made it. And because of sports, I hit that number in about 18 months. And so the point I would have to athletes is you have to look past NIL. I get that NIL is a great benefit, but if you want to stay anywhere in the area, if you want to be anywhere in the vicinity of where you play, there is unbelievable opportunities in this valley. There are world-renowned companies. There are unbelievable number of successful people here. And if you play it right and you get to know them and you're a good person and you sacrifice a little bit, they're going to feel indebted to you. And when it comes time to find a career, now all of a sudden you're going to have a million options, and they're going to look at you like, how do I make this right, or how do I make it up to you, versus, well, I paid you money, I don't care about you anymore.
Sure. No, those are all great points. I think as far for me when it comes to like preparing to pivot, preparing to graduate, I really liked what Chandler said about using your resources. I think up until like my sophomore year playing soccer, I just had my head down doing my thing. I didn't realize like how many resources there are. But there's this book that I love, and it's called Be Where Your Feet Are. And in that book, he talks about that wherever you are, be 100% there. And so I think it can get really overwhelming being an athlete or a student, being, okay, well, I need to win the Mountain West, and I need to be getting straight A's, and I need to find a job, and it can just, the list gets really overwhelming really quickly. And so I'm a really firm believer in that if you're utilizing your resources and you're being doing your best where you're supposed to be, it's just going to work out, and it's going to be okay. My sophomore year, I was speaking at a little event at the Covey Leadership Center, and Professor Bone showed up after and started telling me all about pro sales here on campus, and that was about the last thing on my radar. I loved being an athlete. I thought door-to-door sales, which the only thing I knew about sales is door-to-door, and I was like, thank you, no. But he showed me this whole world of what corporate enterprise sales looked like, which led to me joining pro sales, being the president of pro sales, and then led to my job out of college. And so I just think you never know like what opportunities are going to hit you. So wherever you are, just do your absolute best, utilize all the resources that you can, have integrity, and just trust that it's going to work out and it's going to be okay.
I love it. Time is running nigh, but before we turn it over to Hadley for some Q&A, to lead some Q&A here, you've all come here with different thoughts in your mind about, what do I have to offer? What do I have to share here? I want to give you a chance to say that one piece of advice that you feel like every student here needs to know. So you got to bring it now, all right? Whatever you were waiting on, it's time to share. So let's hear your parting thoughts, and everybody be ready. Think about the questions that you'd be willing to share. Okay?
Okay.
Go.
I know this sounds cliche, but I just really feel like Utah State is so special. I've been to so many other college campuses, playing, and then also since graduating. And I think the resources that you have here, the professors that you have here, really, I know you hear this all the time, but it flies So just cherish it, work as hard as you can, and I think as an athlete, as a student, whatever you identify as, the opportunities and the groundwork that you can lay here really can be like the foundation for the rest of your life. Utah State was not on my radar at all, actually. I came here because of soccer, and it's like hands down the best decision I've ever made. It's something I'm incredibly grateful for. So I know sometimes it feels like I just want to graduate, I just want to move on, do all the things, which is true, and that's wonderful and great. But just soak up the time you have here, soak up the connections. Like, the connections I have here with people are ones that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. So be where your feet are and do your best, and there's amazing things coming.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know why this is what's coming to mind, but my recommendation is be a good person. Be good to people. The more mature I get and the more I get to know people, everybody is hurting. We all have our challenges. We all have our struggles. We all have problems. Most of the time, we don't have any idea what people are struggling with. And what I've learned is if you want to have an impact and if you want to be looked at as somebody different or special, if you think back in the last 10 years of who won the Super Bowl or who was MVPs or who was, as far as the world puts it, who were the best, you don't remember them. But if you think back over your life of who was it when I was feeling down that was kind or made a difference, you'll never forget that person. And who was it that picked me up, or what teammates were there to support me when I was struggling or when I wasn't feeling confident in what I was doing. And my advice is, again, people look at you as an athlete right now as somebody special and somebody different. And if you take 30 seconds or 60 seconds when someone stops you and says, hey, are you so-and-so? Are you on the team? Are you on this? If you treat them well and you're kind, they'll never forget it. If you don't, then you don't ever get that chance again. And so I'm a firm believer that, sorry to bring religion, but God will take care of people who do their best to take care of others. If you treat people well and you're good to people and you keep your feet moving, you may not know what the plan is, you may not know what your exact goals are going to be or where you're going to end up, but if you're just good to people and you keep working, you keep moving and keep going in a direction, it might be like my kids at the bowling alley when the gutters have the rails down there and the ball's bouncing all over the place, but you'll end up in the right place. You may not feel like you're in the straight line and getting strikes, but it doesn't matter. You're going to knock the pins down at some point. Just keep moving and be a good person. It'll all work out.
Thank you. I think those are both just great thoughts. The first thing that came to my mind when you kind of asked that question was it's just really simple. Don't give up. Don't give up. Keep moving forward. Keep looking for opportunities. Keep finding. If the front door's not open, go in the back door. If the back door's on, go in the window. Go to the second floor. Whatever. Just keep finding a way to move forward with the goals that you have. My mom, and I love my mom very much. She's always been a wonderful support to me. But she said something to me about a year ago. She goes, I don't know, Jaycee, things just work out for you all the time. And I was like, what does that mean, Mom? She's like, and she had been talking to one of my aunts, and she got kind of confused in what she said. I was like, what do you mean things just work out for me? Like, they just accidentally happen? And she kind of brought some examples. I go, Mom, you saw the end result of something that took 6 years to build, 6 years to work on. You don't become, overnight success takes a lot of years to become. Not here saying that I'm a success in any way, but I have other people in my life that I look at that are extremely successful, and they have people looking at them going, oh, things just work out for you. It's like, no. Things don't just work out for him. That kid grinded and worked and struggled for 6 years that you didn't see. And now he's an overnight success. Now you see that. And I think about that with basketball. I scored 2,522 points up here at Utah State. No one scored more than that in the history of the university. That's what people saw. To get there, I've shot 500,000 shots that no one saw for the opportunity to score 2,522. 500,000, okay? So keep grinding, keep working, don't give up.
Love everybody's thoughts and what they've said so far on that. I think for me, what comes to mind is just connections. I think so much of life fulfillment comes from relationships. and building and maintaining relationships, and this is the time of your life right now where you have great opportunity to do so much of that. So I think build relationships, meet new people, put yourself out there, go be in places where you may feel a little uncomfortable, or go be in rooms where you feel like people may be more accomplished you. That's how I feel today listening to these three panelists talk beside me. I'm like, wow, these are very, very accomplished people. I just put yourself out there and make connections, and just to echo what Jaycee said, just work really hard and don't give up. And I think that's what sports will teach us is don't ever give up. So.
Love it. Hadley, come on up. Let's thank our panelists right now. This is awesome.
We're now going to turn the time over to you guys to ask some questions. If you have a question, I'll bring the mic over to you. If you would please stand, say your name and your major if you're a student, and then ask your question, that would be great. But if you have any questions, now's the time.
So I've got two questions. One, just I had read something about Jaycee. How many shots did you take that summer before your senior year?
Summer before my senior year, I shot 23,168 shots.
So I knew you'd say that exactly, and I think that's an important example of like what you're, evidencing what you're saying. But I had another question for you about playing, in Europe for Real. How did that experience help you being in that international, in that location? Obviously, Real is a very great European team, mm-hmm. but it was a new location for you. How did that experience affect the way that you looked at the world?
Yeah, it gave me a very big lens to see what else was out there. I even in the basketball world, I sit here at Utah State, and I had no idea about European basketball. I did not know the world out there. I quickly got over there and realized how big of a sport basketball is outside the United States and the level that you're able to play. Basketball gave me so many opportunities to go places and meet people and do things that, looking back on now, when I get a chance to reminisce, are unbelievable. I've kicked goals in Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. I've held, the Champions League trophies for the Champions League stuff. I've been to every major city in the world and played all over. But it was adjustment. When I first got to Italy, every time I got the ball and I tried to drive, they called travel on me. I had to learn the new rules. And I just went back to my same thing. Okay, how do I figure this out? Well, I'm going to get there 25 minutes early every day. I'm going to do 75 pull-up jump shots, not traveling. I'm going to make them. And then I'm going to do it every day until I don't travel. Finished the year, the third leading scorer in the Italian league as a rookie, and things just went from there. So, again, lessons I learned, I've just been able to kind of just reuse them, recycle them in anything that comes up. Ask lots of questions. The questions are fun. Don't be shy. How many people here are student athletes? You know what sport do you play?
Cross country track.
You know what? I would have guessed that. Which event?
Distance, so like mile, 2 mile, 5K, 10K.
Oof.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible. That sounds absolutely horrible.
Yeah, and it sucks.
What's your mile time?
4:11.
Oh, okay.
Let's go. Are we gonna break the 4-minute mark?
Someday.
Let's go. Really, anything. These guys have good stories to tell. Some of these guys are really young. Brady, you got any stories you want to tell?
Oh, here we go.
I have a question. My name's Tanya Davis. I'm staff here at the Huntsman School, but I was a student athlete also in college as well, and I felt like sometimes I had pressure or advice to kind of take the easy route when it came to academics, like, oh, you're a student athlete, here's some of the easiest classes you can register for. And at the time, I didn't consider how that wasn't great for me and my future. So I guess, what do you have to say about challenging yourself while you're here at the university, whether you're an athlete or not, and taking advantage of like doing the hard thing instead of doing the easy thing?
I think it comes back to my dad's conversation of sports are going to end, and I think as an athlete, it's your identity, it's what you've done, you've spent your whole life and all the thousands of hours in gyms and on the field and whatever else, but it comes down to you have an opportunity to get an education and you have to find a way to be successful. And, we'd go on the road and half my team we'd go on the road for 5 days every other week to travel, to games. And, all of our off time, not all of our off time, but when we had off time in between practice and film and whatever else, half my team would be in one hotel room playing Xbox. We had NBA Space Jam or whatever it was on some N64, and they would play for like hours and hours and hours. And, for those of us who had some legit, more difficult degrees, we didn't have the time to do that. And so I remember my teammates kind of giving me a hard time and me giving them a hard time of like, well, I'm going to get a degree that's going to help me. And I didn't mean to be rude about it, but it was just like, you guys can go play your Xbox or whatever it is, and I'm going to get something done. And so I think it's really important just to remember, sports will end. We've had a few athletes come through Utah State in the last 20 years that have made enough money that they don't ever have to work again. But even really good professional athletes are still working. Like it's hard to make enough money to be done. And so I think you have to be really careful and you have to protect yourself in that scenario of when you walk into a counselor and you're working on your schedule and they say, man, you're busy, you got a lot going on as an athlete. You say, yeah, but I want to still plan this like I'm a full-time student with nothing else. And if you have that mentality, then you have a lot of success coming down the road. And if you don't, and you walk through here and you get some type of a degree, just to say you have a degree, it's not going to have a whole lot of value to it.
We got a couple questions here.
Leanne Wappett. I'm a professor in the data analytics program and director of Huntsman Scholars. And so my question's about data. And I want to know, how much did data inform your practice as an athlete? And then how much do you use data now? So it's the currency, I believe, but I want to know from your perspective, from the athlete.
I won't speak to Jaycee shooting, but data in my business is everything. When it comes to money management, asset management, data is everything. When clients ask questions, they don't want an emotional response. They want a response based on what is the data say and what does historical movements or averages mean. What are the odds that something happens? We talk about probability in my office. Probably when we're talking about money, 60-70% of the time we're talking probability, standard deviations, all of that. So when it comes to data in my world is how I make money. It's how we keep people from being completely nuts. It's how we make people comfortable and let them achieve their goals. It's my whole business.
Yeah, data was always important to me, so I knew where I was at, and I was I sit down, I knew my percentages of what I shot in practice from different parts of the field. I knew what my 3-point percentage was, my free throw percentage, my 2-point percentage, and I kept track to see if I could track improvements. And yeah, I agree with the new business I'm in, data is everything. I can sit down and I go, what do we need to do? Where do we need to go? What are the trends? What have we done? And I can start to map things. And I sit and I just stew. I just sit and I just sit for a while with a problem through my head. And it's all I think about until I find the solution. And a lot of that's very data driven. We wanted this result, but this is where we're at. Why? Where did we fall short? Where did we succeed? Where did we fail? Where do we make the adjustments? So I love data. I love looking at numbers. I love looking at statistics. I think there's a lot to learn there.
So my question is one where I want you to look at the camera and I want you to answer the following. Because there's a lot of student athletes that are not here, that need to hear from you on why they should be at Utah State, right? Today in the world of transfer portal, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Again, we welcome transfers to Utah State, but we don't want you to leave, right? But what would you speak to students that are maybe considering leaving Utah State and why that may not be the best decision for them? Not just thinking in terms of the NIL monetary side, but why Utah State, from your opinion?
Sell USU. Sell the Aggies.
Yeah.
Can I answer?
You want me to answer? Well, for me, I'm from Southern Idaho. My wife is from Orem. We both came here, and we're never leaving Cache Valley. We love to travel. We love to see the world. We've been fortunate and blessed to go all over the place. And every time we go somewhere, there will be something beautiful or spectacular. But the conversation is always, we live in the best place in the world. Cache Valley is unbelievable. Utah State is special. It's not a commuter school. It's not a transitional school. You have 25,000 students on campus who are living the college life. You live in a safe community. You live in a community that doesn't care what color your skin is. You live in a community that doesn't care what your religion is, hopefully. They just treat you well. And to be here and to get to experience the things that we do in this valley and at Utah State, you will not find anywhere else in the world, I don't think. It's a blessed place. It's a great place. People from all cultures can come here and hopefully feel safe and feel happy and feel confident in what they're trying to do. And you know, the Huntsman School and Utah State in general has come a long ways. This is a top tier school. You look at the buildings and the facilities and everything that are here. When we were here playing basketball, the weight room was like the size of like a third of this section. And now we've got unbelievable facilities and practice centers and the new Huntsman School of Business buildings and everything that they're building on. You won't find a better all around great place to live life than Cache Valley in Utah State.
There we go.
We should have started that. No, I was just going to say, if you are thinking about leaving, go ahead and look at the soccer team and then think again, because they're killing it. I also think too, and I know this will sound biased because I obviously went to Utah State, but I have teammates who played across all the different colleges in Utah, different schools across the United States. And some of the happiest people I know came to Utah State. I just think the spirit you're saying here, like the community in the Valley, and also I think it not being a commuter school is huge. It's so fun. I tell my friends all the time, there's no city like Logan and Cache Valley because it's just the most rally around Utah State. So I don't know. I know it feels like the grass is greener a lot of times, but I've never felt anywhere like Utah State.
What about you, Chandler?
I just think I want to second what Olivia said. I think the community is what makes Utah State so special. It's like Utah State. I think Logan and Cache Valley is so beautiful, but Utah State really puts this area on the map. It makes this a really, really special place to be. And the way that the community supports the athletics here is what makes Utah State such a special place to be for student athletes. There's just support from the community. And the way the community will support you individually, especially when you feed in the community and you get back to the community, like Brady was saying, you're a good person and you serve the community, like, wow, the people of Cache Valley will really, really support and back the student athletes here at Utah State University. So Cache Valley is just a super special place.
That's awesome.
No, I agree. Like I said, I didn't live here. I'm not from here, from Wyoming. I spent most of my adult life in different countries, 15 years, and my family, we settled here. So we obviously love it. I just would add that there's been an unbelievably high number of student athletes that are super high caliber that decide to make their lives here in Cache Valley. And student athletes or students can tap into that resource without question, with advice, with questions, with answers to help mentor them. I really think that some of these guys that are here and other teammates of ours, Spencer Nelsons of the world, there's a resource of successful humans that have found success outside of athletics that can really help push people's lives and careers forward.
Fantastic. We got 2 more questions, so we'll go back there, then up here.
I know we're here for business, but my favorite thing to hear from athletes is their favorite collegiate moment. I mean, I would love to hear like the thing that sticks out in your mind of your basketball, football, and soccer careers at Utah State.
Well, this is just fun. This is fun.
I think for me, the first thing that comes to my mind is winning the championship against San Diego State and going in on the road and being underdogs and them being ranked, and we felt very disrespected. And I mean, to be frank, in the way that we were ranked and the lack of all conference selections that we had with a lot of our best players, we just felt really disrespected. And just going in there and putting the hammer down on them and beating up on them was, probably the best moment of my athletic career.
Love it.
For sure.
That's hard. My mind's getting a little rusty on my college basketball stuff. But I get asked sometimes, what was your favorite game you played? And it's one that no one else would really recognize. But we played Hawaii in the semifinal of the WAC conference tournament. And it was a team we struggled to beat. They had some guys that used to chase me that made my life really hard. And we barely won that game, and which put us into the championship game. And I finished with 24 points, 14 rebounds, and like 8 assists. It was one of my overall just best all-around games. And that game, I kind of said, I was like, you did good today. You did good today.
That's awesome.
I had a few. I mean, I had a couple ESPN top 10 dunks that were kind of fun. I was compared to Blake Griffin one night on ESPN, which was kind of fun. We graduated together. So, but the most spectacular moment of my college career and of any sporting event I've ever been to was my freshman year. We were at home playing University of Nevada. And Nevada was ranked 7th in the country at the time. They were a legit, really good team. And we all know what the spectrum is and what the spectrum can be. And at that time, the spectrum was insane. And Mark Fox, the Nevada's coach, in an interview before the game a day or two before, said the spectrum will not affect our guys. And the Herd got that, and you can imagine what the Herd did. So that game was insane, but like halfway through the second half, the game was tied 47-47, and Stevan Williams, one of our guards, he made a layup. We came down, we got a stop, so we were up 2. We ran a play for Stevan again. He hit a 3. And the place went insane. And if you watch, there's actually on YouTube a clip of this, and the announcers are like, Coach Fox better call a timeout or this is going to get out of control. And we came down the floor on defense, and they ran a play to Luke Babbitt, who's actually been in the NBA or was in the NBA for quite a while. And he went up to dunk the basketball, and I blocked his dunk. And when I blocked his dunk, the place, it went from loud to you could not hear anymore. We got the ball, and we came down, and Stevan hit another 3. So we went from tied to up 8 in like 40 seconds. And this is not an exaggeration. Like, I've never experienced anything in my life. You could not hear anything. It was a high pitch, like, and the floor of the spectrum was vibrating. And so when they interviewed Stevan Williams after that game, he's like, I was legit dizzy. They actually had to go grab Stevan and bring him to the huddle because it was so loud, he was confused about what was going on. And I still, like, sometimes when I'm feeling bad about myself, I pull up that video just to smile, and it was the best experience of any sporting moment I've ever been in.
Yes, it was.
I think my favorite moment, we had lost in the Mountain West tournament to Boise State, and it was like the most frustrating thing ever. So we were playing them in the spring, and it was like a game that honestly didn't matter a ton, but it mattered to us because we were just mad. And so we were down 3-0, and in the second half, the last like 15 minutes, we ended up coming back 4-3 and won. But after we scored, I hit this, like, it was just a banger of a shot, and it went in the top left corner, and we won. But it wasn't even the goal. It was like the celebration after. One of my teammates, she was like the strongest teammate I had, squatting like probably 300 pounds, came and trucked me so hard, this dog pile, it ended up spraining one of my ribs. But it was worth it. And so actually I've done the same thing a couple times, like pulled up the video, just like the hype around it. So That's awesome. It was fun.
We got one more question.
My name's Haley Belliston. I'm studying information systems. You guys talked a good amount about opportunity and seeking it. And being in the Huntsman Business School, a lot of chances come our way. And I think a lot of mentors, whether that's a professor or a guest speaker or even, in our work lives, we're told just say yes. Take your opportunities. You worked hard for them. I think probably as student athletes, you can relate to this. A lot of times it gets overwhelming. Maybe sometimes too many opportunities come your way. How do you figure out what to say yes to and what to say no to and not regret it?
That's a really good question. I think what I tell myself, even with that today, I love what Jaycee was saying about like studying problems and reworking them. But I feel like maybe this is just Olivia logic, so take it for what you will. But I feel like in your gut, you typically know. Like, you know what's meant for you. You know what you're excited about. You know if something is on the path with what you're trying to achieve. So I would just say trust your gut. there's going to be a lot of opportunities that do come your way, and it's maybe not realistic to say yes to all of them. So do all your research for sure, but once you feel like you've done everything you can, I would just say trust yourself, because your gut is usually right.
Yeah, that's spot on. My favorite word now is no. And it's taken me 37 years to learn that. I have a horrible personality trait that I want to please everybody, and I want to do everything for everyone. And what I've learned is if you say yes to everything, you'll do everything and do nothing well. And so I think you have all these opportunities with the Huntsman School and the internships and the overseas opportunities and everything else. There's so many good things. And for some people, those good things are great things, and for other people, those good things are not good things. And it comes back to my analogy in my mind, of the bowling alley. And okay, as long as you're making decisions, if you have a rough idea of the direction you're wanting to head, and there's an opportunity that takes you down that direction, and you feel in your gut, I agree 100% with Olivia, like you're going to know what's right for you and what's not. But if you feel that something's good and it's right and it's going to take you down that rough direction of where you want to go, say yes and say no to everything else. Because to really be good, in my opinion, you have to start saying, what is it that I need to put all of my time and effort into, and where is it that I find time for rest and recovery and for myself and for my family? Because work is one thing and work is important. Money is a means to an end. And if you build your entire life just solely around a career or saying yes to everything, you're going to miss out on so much happiness and gratification and satisfaction with what's really important, in my opinion. So say no to everything but those things that you feel like this is a great way to move down my direction and where I hope I want to be.
Brilliant answer. I can't add to that. I could just share kind of my own personal little experience from the last couple of years. Retired from basketball, jumped into something new, got my licenses, all that kind of stuff. 2023, I was pretty well settled. I was pretty happy with things, and I said yes to everything. I became a head girls basketball coach. Like, this will be easy. This won't take much time. I opened and started a new business, a med spa. I was working at 3 Seasons Wealth. I was doing a cattle company. My wife was a cheer coach. My wife started a dance studio. We said yes to everything. I got down into 2023 and I go, this is not the way I want to live. I am not happy. I work too much. I'm not spending time where I want to spend it. So last year, I spent October, November, December. What is important to me? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And I like Jesse Eitzler. I think he says some pretty interesting things. But he I found kind of the solution for me. He called his Big A calendar. And I went on Amazon. I bought a calendar that had every single month, every single day for 2024. And the very first thing I did on that was I wrote down, there's some things. So one big event that I want to do to make sure that work, play, everything else didn't get in the way of that. That one big thing was what I could look back in 2024 and say, I did that in 2024. I put on there four mini adventures that I wanted to have. One of mine was hiking the top of the Wellsvilles. We did it last week. 4 big adventures I was going to do. 6 habits, and what are your daily vitamins that you want to do drink? What are your daily vitamins that you do? Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's reading, maybe it's praying, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. What are those things? Maybe it's hugging your wife. Whatever those are. And so all I did was, he said it perfectly. In my life, if you're catching kind of a pattern, is like I need things kind of written down, spelled out, and have those goals to work for. But my Big A calendar that sits in my office, I've got those important things on, and I start carving the rest out. I no longer, I did an acquisition with my med spa. I spend 1% of the time there that I did in the past. Most of the time I want to spend at 3 Seasons Wealth. My cattle company, I brought in some partners to help that grow and take time off my plate. I hired a ranch hand to do the daily stuff that I don't want to do. Say yes to everything, but as he said, carve it out. Mine's the Big A calendar, and moving forward with that.
Love it. I love what Brady said about, keeping in mind where you want to be. And so I think about identify where you want to be and who you want to be professionally, and then look for opportunities that push you towards that, and then also help you become that person that is successful in that final end goal role that you're talking about. And then I also think it's important to align your values with the values of the company that you work for. Like, think about is what you're going to be selling or what you'll be pitching, is that something that you're passionate about? And does success in that role make you feel fulfilled? Are you happy at the end of the day coming home when you're, when you're succeeding in that role?
I like that. Fantastic.
Can we get one more round of applause for our speakers today? We do have some gifts for you guys. You took your time out of your day to be here, so we're very grateful for that. But here you go.
And before you go, everybody, remember the names of our panelists are here on the screens. Make sure you reach out, connect. This is an opportunity. Find them on LinkedIn. Don't miss your opportunity. Shoot your shot. Yep.